Hi, Jevon. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It's a real honor and a privilege to meet someone in Singapore during this COVID-19 crisis. So, you got the IP Star Award for 3 years in a row for managing IP. You have worked in IP in Singapore for many years. How is the current COVID-19 situation impacting the legal sector in general? And which are the major changes you've seen in the last few months?
Well, I think to take that question, really, the first thing is that it's affecting certain industries more than others. I think that's clear. So Singapore is very dependent on its aviation, tourism, hospitality, construction industries, and those have been affected quite a fair bit. The thing is, COVID-19 has actually disrupted the way I think many do business, and with the work from home requirements being put in, I think businesses have had to adjust to these organizational challenges in a big way. The government, on its part, has implemented several measures. It has put in place certain, what is called the COVID-19 Temporary Measures Act. So that's something that's directed towards helping companies in certain industries like construction and tourism to sort of put a pause on certain contractual obligations that can arise during this period. So that's helped companies cope, at least in the interim. But apart from that, those, as I mentioned, those are only temporary measures, and I think it remains to be seen how this is really going to play out. Because I think once the measures are lifted, and once people have a better handle on COVID-19, then the economic fallout from it is really going to be become clearer. And I think it's at that point in time, how we respond to it and how we deal with it, I think that's going to be the bigger challenge.
Have you seen that the Singapore economy has changed based on the crisis at this time? I know most of the world has to a certain extent, but has there been like a serious issue there financially?
Yes, definitely. I think, again, the full impact, I think, has yet to be felt simply because of the temporary measures that and the stimulus packages that the government has rolled out in a big way, as many other governments have across the world. But I think the major change in the way we're doing business is that I think we've come to realize, first of all, that office space is not absolutely necessary. People can work from home. Business can continue if you're in certain industries and sectors, especially services. That's not an issue. I think many businesses have pivoted to now online sales and distribution channels. So that's something that we've also seen. The delivery services have picked up. You have more such entrants into the market, and those that are incumbents have started to diversify, not just into their point-to-point transport, but also to include food delivery services as well. So I think, yeah, definitely it has forced these changes onto the population. Online shopping to get your groceries and not just for your shoes or whatever it is that you used to buy from Amazon, but even for your basic essentials, your groceries, toilet paper. All that's now, some people are doing it online completely, avoiding visits to the supermarket. So that could be seen as a positive point. But on the downside, of course, you have retail that's affected. Consumer-related products, front-facing consumer services, those are the ones that suffer the most, F&B especially.
I would assume the real estate, the office space may have an impact around the world for people now being able to work from home. In Singapore, it's a small country, and people tend to be able to travel to their office buildings. Do you think that this may change and have more people working from home moving forward after this COVID-19 situation changes?
Yes, commercial real estate in Singapore is expensive. It's pricey. And I think businesses will come to realize that perhaps they don't need that many staff to be on site at a given time. And that may lead to them taking on less space in the future, which could potentially have knock-on effects for the commercial real estate industry as a whole. where landlords will now have excess space. Or perhaps that could actually work to the positive, where rates come down and more people take up actually more businesses when they're entering the market. They have ready real estate that's affordable, commercial real estate that they can go to because demand has sort of tapered off, possibly with more people working from home.
So you're a trained mechanical engineer as well as an IP professional, only one of two patent professionals with such a technical background in Singapore. You also have solid experience in contentious matters. What do you think are the challenges and opportunities the current situation presents to this line of work in particular?
Well, I mean, first of all, for litigation, even during regular times, companies are hesitant to litigate a matter in court because of cost and also because of sometimes public perception of what that means. But during COVID-19 or any economic downturn, it's been found, research has shown that IP infringement tends to increase. So you have more counterfeiting, you have more piracy, you have more civil IP infringements also. And that's very much down to, I think, companies being more financially strapped. So instead of taking out the proper licenses that they would have done in ordinary times, they tend to maybe use one software license and stretch it to more users than they should have. So things like that happen, not so much deliberately or because there's any malintent, but simply sometimes it's a function of the economic downturn. But of course, there are also those who carry out counterfeiting activities, which seem to increase during economic downturns because people may still want certain goods, but they're not willing to actually buy original. So that's the background, and that's what happens. So bearing that in mind, I think actually during this period, there is an opportunity, notwithstanding that there is a legal cost that goes into it, but there is an opportunity for litigation, IP litigation, because clients should actually be working during this time to preserve their market share and grow their market share. And one way of doing that is actually to rely on their intangible assets, so their patent rights, trademark rights, copyright, and enforce those rights in the market. Because you don't want the case where companies or proprietary rights owners step back and give space for such activities to flourish. And then you have a rise in counterfeit goods. You have a dilution of the value of the brand. The brand starts to become flooded with counterfeits in the market, and that makes future enforcement even more costly and more ineffective because you've got more players to deal with. So I think this is an opportunity actually for those of us who do IP enforcement, IP litigation. But we can't do it alone. The clients, the companies, the businesses, they have to see the value in taking such action at this time.
As a partner at Lin Bok, you focus on IP, technology, and data. You work across a wide range of industry sectors, including biotech, life sciences, mechanical and electrical engineering. Do you see the COVID-19 situation having a financial impact on any of these sectors in particular? And if so, would you say the impact is more noticeable in some areas rather than others?
Yes, definitely. I think, first of all, across the board, I think all sectors are affected. Of course, it's to different extents. So you have the aviation or tourism industries, which are very big in Singapore. The events management and exhibitions industries are hit very badly. But at the same time, I think certain technology-based services are actually doing quite well. Case in point, you have Zoom that suddenly shot to prominence. And I think that's also quite clear when you have Amazon, Netflix, services that are ancillary and that people now find that they rely more on. Those are actually doing quite well. The technology-based ones, I think they take, such as research in biomed, life sciences, I think there is a certain hit taken in that activities may have been disrupted. But I think in the long run, those are usually well-financed, they're well-capitalized, and they are able to continue once the restrictions are lifted. They may continue with certain restrictions in place, but I don't think the business model as such is going to be disrupted or affected. It's the more front-facing consumer brick-and-mortar businesses, the large malls and retailers that are going to actually find that they need to either reinvent themselves, move towards technology platforms, use technology to improve productivity, improve the know-how that the organizations have. I think that's the challenge that's going to be facing many businesses. Getting themselves, because in a downturn, what do you really need to do? Three ways would be: one, as we talked about earlier on, would be preserving market share, and that's from enforcement action against infringers or those who are seeking to encroach on your market share. The other way would be by improving productivity. When you improve productivity in a downturn, you're ready when things recover because your business is leaner, more efficient, you have cost savings, you have a lower cost. So that's the other aspect of it. The third aspect is really innovation and R&D. So it doesn't have to be high-end R&D like what you're talking about in life science industries or biomedical. Any company or any business can be innovative. It's just a matter of looking at what they're doing and finding new ways in which they can tweak their business models, improve their commercial strategies, and realign so that when there's an upturn, they'll be ready to take advantage of that.
Do you see that companies outside of Singapore that would typically file in Singapore, have you seen less protection during national phase, less companies protecting their rights in Singapore because of the situation?
Yes, the short answer would be yes. And I think that's also borne out by WIPO's filing statistics, which they've shown a drop of about 17% or something, I think, over the last month or so, year on year. So clearly there's a drop globally in filings. There's also a drop in national phase entries. That's what we see. But it's hard to say that this drop is, while it's clear it's attributable to COVID-19, it's difficult to say that it's going to be an overall drop because companies are cutting back on R&D and innovation. I don't think that link can be drawn just yet. It could simply be that administratively it's difficult for companies to put into effect things that they normally would have done during this period because of work from home arrangements or certain disruptions that may have taken place. Invention disclosures are not being evaluated as quickly as they could have, and so on. And all that has a knock-on effect on patent filings, possibly. It could be the case that COVID-19 is going to have an impact on IP filings. I'm optimistic that actually when the economy reopens, when companies come back to some sort of a new normal when it comes to doing business, filings and registration work will pick up again.
The local innovation companies, have you seen them not filing in as many countries because of the situation?
I don't see that happening yet. Same reason is that I think, first of all, there was a certain amount of work in the pipeline already, and that sort of continued to carry through. Secondly, for many companies, the end of the year, financial year, was on 31st of March. So budgets had already been put in place. Projects had been locked in for those budgets, and the work sort of continued on. It's moving forward from there that it's a question mark whether or not companies are going to continue to focus and devote resources, capital towards innovation and R&D. If they're going to continue to do that and to create and value their intangible assets, then I think we will continue to see work coming through the pipeline. It's only if they start to cut back and refocus, which I think some will inevitably do, because for some companies it's more of an existential issue than trying to reorganize themselves to prepare for the upturn.
Jevon, being in the IP space for a long time, having a background in technology, what would you tell the patent world in general around the world that may be watching? What would you expect in 30 seconds or less? What should they expect from the industry moving forward?
Well, I think the IP industry, like any other, is also going to innovate, and the way we're doing business is also going to change. I think if you're going to find ways to be more efficient, to be able to leverage on IT and technology platforms when it comes to managing IP portfolios, when it comes to filing, when it comes to even managing our licensing contracts. we're going to be turning towards technology to help us more so that we can keep a better control on costs and also deliver high value to our clients.
Speaking to many different IP professionals around the world, what would you tell them about the local industry in Singapore about whether they should protect their rights there in the patent space?
Well, Singapore has a very vibrant ecosystem for startups, for SMEs, and even mature businesses. We are geographically located in the hub of Southeast Asia, and there's a market of about 330 million. So from Singapore, it makes an ideal springboard to go into the region to develop and grow your business. Because of that, Singapore is an ideal place where you should have your intellectual property protected. It's a good place to set up an R&D or HQ. From there to springboard into the region. You have capable talent. We have strong financial hub and a system in place to raise funds. So that makes us very attractive to many different types of industries, different types of businesses, especially Industry 4.0 technologies. So AI, fintech, medtech, companies dealing in those areas have been flocking to Singapore in the last few years. So I think that makes it a very exciting place to be.
So being a great guy, being relaxed, and you're in Singapore now, some of the patent agents around the world may not have good connections in Singapore. How would you feel? Would it be okay if people would contact you moving forward? And how would they do that?
We're more than happy to make new business relationships with people from anywhere in the world. We're always open to forming new alliances, working together with our fellow patent agent colleagues. So you can reach out to me at jevon.lewis@shooklin.com, or you can just find me on LinkedIn just by typing in my name to search. I don't think it'll be very hard to find.